Hey everybody, listen up. I got mega huge news. Meat Eater Live is heading back out on the road. That's right. Join me and the crew. Clay Newcomb, Cal, Yanni, Spencer's going to be there. Phil the engineer's going to be there. Meat Eater Live headed back out. Now, when you get every ticket, okay? Every ticket you buy, you get a signed copy of our new Meat Eater Outdoor Cookbook. This tour is celebrating the release of the book. Buy a ticket, get a signed copy, Meat Eater Outdoor Cookbook, wild game recipes for the grill, smoker, camp stove, and campfire, which I'll point out is a $38 value. Here's where we're going to go. April 23rd, the Mesa Art Center in Mesa, Arizona. April 24, the Balboa Theater in San Diego. April 25, the Grove in Anaheim, California. April 27, the Crest Theater in Sacramento. April 29, the Union in Salt Lake City. April 30, the Egyptian in Boise. May 1, the Wilma Theater in Missoula. May 2, the Bing Crosby Theater in Spokane, Washington. May 4, Revolution Hall in Portland, Oregon. And May 5, the last day of the tour, Pantages Theater in Tacoma, Washington. For tickets and more information, visit the events page at themeateater.com. Hope to see you at the show.
Hey, this is Tyler Jones, and you're listening to the Element Podcast.
Well, I wish the best, yeah.
What's happening, all my woods people? We are currently in and around Emory, Texas. And we're driving. You can probably tell. So there may be some bumps and some noise and this and that going on. But KC is my co-pilot tonight. What's happening, dude?
Just deer driving. It's one of my favorite things to do.
Yep.
And pretty much when you're in the heart of the off season, there's not much else to do but drive around and just maybe daydream about being able to hunt a property one day.
Yeah. Yep. And we've got some prospective properties going on right now.
There are some prospects. We're actually fixing to view one on our right, not far from here.
Yeah.
But if I think this one would work out, I just have to ask.
Mm-hmm.
But if it doesn't work out, we can go to Plan B, which is always the public land game, which is fun.
Yeah. Speaking of Plan B, we have a guest tonight that is a good dude to be talking to this time of year.
He is. And I love the way you did that. The transition master, T. Jones, over here.
Thank you. So we have Chris B., who is a professional archer, which this is the time of year to start getting into archery and start learning how to shoot your bow better and figuring it out and practicing and that kind of thing. And that's what we've got today is an episode that talks a lot about that. It talks about hunting deer as well. So we try to take all these we're going to try to take all these different concepts and we're going to try to relate them all to the hunting world. So it's not, so you don't sit there and think, oh, well, this is how you would shoot, if you were in competition or something like that. But, it's different in the woods. We're going to try to make sure this is what you do in the woods. Anyway, before that, though, you and I got a few things to talk about, or at least I know I do, so you may be doing some listening. But one thing that I plan on doing is getting a new rest soon. So I would say this. If anybody has any suggestions or thoughts about a new rest and what I should get, I would love to hear them. I always love hearing everybody's takes on what kind of equipment I should use because nothing better than first-person experience to help you out. That's been good over the last couple of years doing this thing. So,
I know a lot of guys that shoot the QAD Ultra Rest, and it seems to come standard on Matthews bows. So I think that might be part of it. But I kind of always wonder if it's one of those things where it's just accepted as that's what you do, but is it really the best answer? Are there better answers for drop-aways than that QAD Ultra Rest? Right,
and that's doing research. Man, everything you see is on that particular rest, and it's high dollar, and I'm willing to pay high dollar for a rest if it's going to make me shoot accurately. But I mean, how else do you really know than by kind of what word of mouth is.
It's kind of funny because people are so passionate about archery equipment is that it does not matter what it is. There's someone who hates it, someone who loves it, and a bunch of people in between.
Yeah.
Every product. So
yeah.
it's literally like there's so much information about it that it doesn't do you any good to have the information.
Yeah, that's true, man. So anyway, if you got any thoughts about that, feel free to hit me up. Casey, I have a story for you.
Do you?
This I have a couple stories actually.
Ooh.
This road right here is where I shot at my first archery buck.
Is it really?
And hit him in the dead zone.
Oh no.
Yep. So hunted a little property down here that I got permission from on a old guy in town. Asked him if I could hunt, and he was like, "Yeah, y'all go out there, or whatever." Me and a buddy did. So started putting some corn out here, and hung in this little opening. Didn't have a clue really what I was doing. Always just hunted feeders, going up and gun hunted. Starting to get into archery. My dad taught me how to shoot a little bit, and so anyway, put a stand up in a tree on the edge of this opening. I don't even know if I knew where my wind was blowing, and probably, I don't know, it has at least 30 minutes before what time it is right now. So it's not too late, but it's golden hour. I see a buck coming, and I put my binos on him. And it's a 3-point.
Oh, yes.
I'm like, yes, sir.
Legal.
He's legal. So he got to like 5 yards, came straight to the tree from like 70 yards out at like 5 yards. And you'll hear Chris talk about this in this episode, I'm sure. But didn't get my anchor point right, if you know what I mean, on a 5-yard deer, and shot high and hit him in the dead zone. And we found one tiny spot of blood over the next day. So pretty disappointing.
Yeah, how heartbroken were you?
Very, very. I was sick. I mean,
yeah,
that was one of those things I always wanted to do, was shoot a deer in East Texas. And growing up around here, that was not like if you didn't have land to hunt on, like that was not an easy thing to get done, But that property was right up here.
Was that him? Was it that deer that you shot?
That might be him right there.
I think it might be. I think it's a buck.
Yeah, it does look like it. He's solo and he's big bodied.
Yeah. That's
so
cool.
Anyway, yeah, that's one story. My next story, and this has happened, let's see, was this last weekend? No, this is the weekend before maybe. Anyway, my wife had a birthday, and I hadn't talked about this yet on the podcast, I don't believe, but her and I decided to go down, and if you are a podcast listener, you'll remember Jesse Griffiths, who has a restaurant named Didue in Austin, Texas. So we decided to take a trip down to Austin. People that aren't from Texas or hadn't been here might think, oh, yeah, just cool little, town right down the road from where we're at. No, it takes about 5 hours to get there. But we ended up going down there to his restaurant, and Jesse was not able to be there that night, but made a gesture and paid for some of our food, which I thought was really cool. We didn't know that was going to happen until we went to pay the bill. So anyway, we had a blast. The food, I'm not just saying this, was spectacular. I mean, it was incredible.
It looked good.
Dude, we had these bay shrimp that were large, for one. And literally, I don't know what they were cooked in, but it was like an appetizer. It was kind of an expensive appetizer, but it was worth it. And they were cooked in something that it was almost like some kind of a real thin, like etouffee of some kind or something. Oh my goodness. Me and Kaylee were just smiling. We were just like, what is this? Like, I've never tasted anything like this, but it's incredible. And so anyway, the main part of this story happened before we actually went to the restaurant, okay? Mm-hmm. I was signed up, which I wanted to do this because I had never done it, and I thought this would be something that would maybe help my old football body out. But I was signed up for a massage by Kaylee. And so we went to get this
little... Was that a place? Massage by Kaylee?
I wish. Okay. You're about to find out why. We did a couples massage. And so when she had kind of like pre-ordered this thing or whatever online, like they ask you, do you want to, do you prefer what sex of person does your massage? And I was like, I mean, I'm not too worried about it, but yeah, a female would be a lot less creepy and make me more comfortable, at least, probably, you know. So we get there, and this was happening. You know, this is the first thing we do when we got to Austin. We get there, it's all kind of weird and not my kind of scene, you know, too much. And anyway, they call us back, and they go, oh, she introduces us to our masseuses, which are both men.
Oh, awkward for both of you.
Well, I don't think she had a preference anyway. So
Yeah.
Anyway, they're both men. So we get in there, and it's like super quiet, you know. And there are, you know, it's like some Chinese music playing, like real soft, you know, in the background, and so he says a couple words, and he's got his masseuse voice going on, you know, and it's like, and so I'm just like already kind of like tense, you know, and just not really digging this. And he goes to working on my back, and dude, I don't see how it's possible to squeeze somebody as hard as this dude was squeezing me, man.
Oh,
I'm talking nailing like every little spot in between my spine column, you know, and I'm like, I'm sitting there just trying to be tough. You know, I'm the dude. My wife hadn't said anything yet, you know, and so like, I'm like, I'm going to be tough. So like 10 minutes into this thing, he starts hitting my neck, and I can't take it, dude. And I'm like, a little less pressure, please.
How polite of you.
So anyway, this guy also happens to have a stuffed up nose, which is really cool in a quiet room. When you're, you know, barely breathing out of your nose, and it's making all kinds of weird noises, and then, you know, you got to sniffle every like couple seconds. Okay. So he starts. Eventually, I get turned over on my back, and he worked the legs and worked up real high on me several times, which was uncomfortable. There was not a moment of comfort during this whole thing. Okay,
It doesn't sound like it.
And so at one point I'm on my back, and he gets up on top, like by my head, kind of right, and I've got my eyes closed because you're supposed to relax, you know, whatever. And he starts working on my biceps, and he's working down my biceps, and all of a sudden he like takes his arms and starts to like go down my arms with both of his arms, right? And I feel something touch the top of my head, first of all.
No.
And so I know he's getting stretched out a little bit. And I can like feel his head very close to my head. Okay. And so I cracked one of my eyes open, just barely. Dude, our faces were so close to each other. And I just closed my eye real quick and just tried not to breathe, dude. And so anyway, that was towards the end, and that was kind of like the grand finale, I guess.
Yeah,
but
that's good.
yeah, so he got all up in my space, man. There was not a moment of comfort that I had in that whole thing.
Yeah, I have a massage story not nearly as funny, but pretty funny. That would go along with that.
Sure.
Yeah, we did a couple massage one time too, and I didn't really care to like be next to Cassie while doing the couple massage because I'm going to not say words, and I'm not going to touch her, and I'm not going to have my eyes open, right? So like, yeah, well, just put us in different rooms, you know, I don't care. And so we did that, and I got a hefty, well-endowed lady who's a really good masseuse, and she did the same exact move. Except when she bent over, it was like I was suffocated in her bosom. It was terrible. It was like I had earmuffs on, man.
Oh my goodness.
It was, yeah. So pretty much, maybe we should just like request at the beginning of the massages that they don't do that move, whatever that's called. If you know what that's called, reach out to us, let us know, and we need to not have that happen.
Yeah. We definitely the bicep bosom choker.
It's not good.
No, it's not. So you went on a trip this weekend. There's a deer right there on the side of the road.
What are y'all doing over there?
So you went on a trip this weekend.
Yeah.
How was that, man?
It was great, man. It's
we hadn't talked about it really.
Yeah, Higher Ground Ministries, which is like a non-denom church retreat thing they do for men and women across. They have 2 places in Texas and 1 place in New Mexico that they do it, and it's like just a. So I'm going to struggle to describe it because it's kind of one of those things, and it was very spiritually moving. It was very good at breaking you down, which sounds strange, but like us as men in particular, we're so bad about putting up these walls and being like trying to be strong and macho, and it's so hard to let your guard down. But when you do, and you feel like you're around friends and you're around people who care about you, it's a lot easier, and that's kind of what this thing sets you up to. Mm-hmm. And then they there's like 12 or 13 different talks during this thing, kind of like mini lessons or whatever, but it's really 12 or 13 testimonies of guys and what God's done in their life and where they've came from, and there was a lot of man tears going on this weekend.
Oh, that's good,
yeah,
man. That's good.
It was cool, man. I know that doesn't sound like fun. It might be type 2 fun, like we've talked about a few times on the podcast, but it really wasn't even about fun, And to be honest, like heading into this thing, me as kind of a stir-crazy outdoors kind of person, I was really worried about having to sit inside for 2 days straight. And then come Sunday, once we did our church service there, I didn't even, like that's when I finally realized, like, hey, I didn't worry about being inside this whole weekend at all the whole time I was here, and that's when like that conversations are good and the worship's good and like God was there, and that's cool, and we read in Scripture that, whenever two or more are gathered, God is with them, and you get that many people together for a common purpose and singing, praising God. It's pretty moving, man.
Yeah.
So that's what we had going on this weekend.
Well, that's cool, man. Like that, what you kind of struck a chord with me, which is actually a pun, but when you talk about like guys getting like calloused and such to a lot of things in the world, I guess. Like I try to, as a musician, as a songwriter more than anything, really, like you have this. You have to like have the ability like reach inside and pull out emotions from yourself, or you're just writing lame music usually.
Yeah, sure.
So like recently I wrote a song that's going to be on the next album that is very deep and about like some really tough moments in my life in the last like 3 years. Yeah. And it's one of those things that I know when I sing it in the studio, like there will be man tears, because I know that cool. Because that happened on the last album, and I can just tell with this song that it's going to be that way. And I don't know, it's just, when a guy like shoots a big buck that he's put a lot of work in for, and he cries, there's a bunch of like bottled up emotion that has come out in that moment, and it's kind of the same thing for me with music. Like there's been a lot that has like come to a head all of a sudden in this moment where like you're finally in the studio to record the final version of this song, and you want to put your heart and soul into it vocally, so but yeah, like I have to deal with that. And so I guess like as a bridge here, like I have really tried to kind of reach back out, especially this weekend with you gone. I didn't have nothing to do. I've been trying to
next higher ground, you got to go.
That's it. No, but I reached out, and to my audience with my band, the Tyler and the Tribe, and tried to like kind of open up to them emotionally about some things that have happened. And the ACMs went on this weekend and stuff, and we did a song with Maren Morris, and so like there's some emotions that have played into that. So if you're interested in knowing what I was talking about, you can go check out my Facebook video that I did, live video. on that page. But anyway, like I've been trying to like open up, just be transparent and honest and that kind of thing. And it's not very easy to do in the public eye, man, you know?
Yeah.
I guess the reason I'm doing that is in preparation for this next album. So like as a kind of shameless plug here for the music, you know, doing a pledge music campaign, which is kind of like a funding campaign, but what you do is you pledge X amount of money, and it doesn't cost you anything until basically you get what you bought. And if we don't fulfill the campaign, then you don't owe anything, and you don't, you know, none of this stuff is delivered. So, but we've got a pledge music campaign. I think the goal is $5,000, which won't cover the album, but I have a little extra money saved up for it, and that'll help tremendously towards getting the album done. So if you are interested in music, interested in seeing what kind of music I am coming up with, you know, go check out that Pledge Music campaign. Kind of a plug there, but I appreciate you guys for listening to that and allowing me to kind of plug it. So I know we're running along on this intro, but I just wanted to make a statement. I have spent a lot of money on tags this year already.
Yeah, I've spent some and am going to spend more very soon.
Yeah, me too. I still have Iowa up, so
ooh,
yeah, I know that's a brutal one.
Yeah, so I got to buy points this year for that, and that we can do that until much later, I believe.
Really?
I think.
I thought it was still the same deadline, but just way cheaper.
Maybe not. I need to check on that, make sure.
It's usually 1st of June, I believe. So yeah, we should have time. We'll check on it. But anyway, I think it's about time to wrap up this intro. We're going to get to Chris B. And man, I know that this isn't the end of the podcast, but thank you guys for listening and allowing us to have this platform, share this platform with you guys, and share just our thoughts and emotions. And hopefully we don't get too emotional for you guys sometimes, but keep some tactics in there.
Yeah, it's part of it, you know.
But,
I feel like if you don't share the human element, like how exciting is this? You know, what is life? You know, like for real though. You know, like what's the point of doing all this stuff?
Yeah, I said this before, and I can't remember what podcast it was. But people are the most important thing on the earth.
That's right.
So the relationships that we build with each other are very important to us. So anyway, let's get Chris B on the phone and listen to what this professional archer has to say. So on the phone we have competitive archery shooter, vlogger, and hunter, Chris B of the B Season. What's happening, dude?
Thanks for having me, guys. It's a pleasure.
Oh, man, we're glad to have you for sure. What's good, man? What's been happening in your world?
Just been grinding.
Yeah.
Seems like it's just nonstop, but yeah, everything's great. Everything's good. Competitions are going to start ramping up here pretty soon for outdoor, coming in May, and it's just going to be even crazier. So
yeah,
but it's all good.
So you're still really involved in the competitive side of archery, huh? Yeah.
So I've shot since I've been, I started shooting a bow when I was 6 years old. First a bow hunt. My dad bow hunted. But eventually I found tournaments through a local club organization and thought that was really cool. Went to a couple state tournaments. Thought it was, even more cool, and went to nationals. And then, it just snowball effect from there. Started going to national events and everything, and discovered USA Archery and USAT events and the United States archery team, and made that for several years. And when I was 16, there's a major tournament in Vegas every year. Mm-hmm. It's like Worlds. It's like the shoot. If you know anything about competition archery, you're there pretty much. So I decided when I was 16 to jump into the pro division. And I did extremely well. I only dropped 1 point. I shot 899 out of 900, which I was like, yeah. So I cleaned it the first 2 days, and I was only like the final 15 people clean. I got all the pros and everything, and I really didn't have any clue what the heck was going on because I was only 16. But at the end of that second day, Hoyt, which is my current sponsor, came up to me and be like, and I've had a little bit of relationship with them, but they were like, "Hey, you're doing really good. Let's talk after," type thing. So I ended up dropping one the third day or whatever, but that moment right there kind of kicked off my pro career, and I've been shooting ever since. Finally shot a 900 in Vegas and made the shoot off last year. So not this year Vegas, but last year Vegas. So that was super cool. And just grinding ever since. And I'm still a college student. I go to Michigan State University for advertising. So still going to college and doing hunts, like you mentioned, bee season stuff. So yeah, that's kind of me in a nutshell right now.
Cool, man. That's good. So for the listener that may not know, I'm asking for a friend here, but what is a 900?
Sorry. Yeah. So a basic Vegas round. So that's like you see the yellow, the red, the blue, the black, the yellow target. Mm-hmm. There's the 3-spot version, and that's you shoot 30 arrows. And out of those 30 arrows, if you shoot all 10s, that's a 300. So, and that's at 20 yards indoors.
Okay.
So each day in Vegas, you shoot 30 arrows. And by the end of the third day, you shot a total of 90 arrows. And if you shot all 10s, that's a 900. So it's not that it's extremely hard to shoot a 900. Like, all the pros should be able to do it on any day of the week. The problem is the pressure cooker of Vegas that makes it so hard to shoot the 900. So, I mean, I think there was 15 people out of several hundred, that shot a 900 the year I shot it, and this year there was 10 or 12 or so. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, that's 900.
Cool. So on that note, I'm going to kind of jump into something that I really wasn't wanting to get into yet, but we'll go ahead and do it.
Let's do it.
I'm not much in that perfect form archer category. I don't know a ton about archery or shooting, even though I've shot a bow for about 12 years or so now. After this podcast, I intend to strive to be better,
ramp it up.
Yeah. But, I've shot pretty well on whitetail deer, and my dad and I, if we shoot together, he's worse than me on the target,
Okay.
Not much, but my dad has seriously in the last 10 years, he's watched every single deer he's shot fall. And I'm talking not run 300 yards out in the open. And we're talking die in 40 or 60 yards, So he's just a crack shot when it comes down to the game time, and
just got that killer instinct.
Yes. Yeah. It's, a lot of people call it killer instinct. I've called it just being a gamer. So in the moment of truth, you come through. I mean, do you experience that? Do you believe in that? What are your thoughts on that?
During hunting?
Well, just, even in competition, you reminded me when you're talking about in competition, just the pressure of Vegas, there's just some people that can come through and shoot. And then there's those guys that will never shoot a 900, even though they could do it any day of the week. They just can't do it at Vegas because it's so much pressure,
Oh, yeah, 100%. So, I get what you're saying now. I mean, the top dogs that have been doing it forever have mastered that pressure, and it's still a non-going, never-ending. As many times as you've been to Vegas, that pressure is always there, and it's always so hard to overcome it. But there are the guys that, it seems like they don't have a pulse, like Jesse Broadwater, for example. He just seems like Mikey Slosher. These are names that, if you're in the community, you know it. But, those guys can just straight up pound, under whatever amount of pressure.
Right.
And in the hunting situation, same thing. I missed quite a few deer, which my high school buddies make fun of me because they all deer hunt and stuff too. And they figure since I'm a tournament archer and stuff that I'd smoke everything. But, and that pressure happens and you mess up every now and again. But yeah, definitely there's a tournament kill mode, I guess you could say, when you're on stage at a, head-to-head match or something. 100%. There's guys that just love that stuff. And then there's guys that just absolutely crumble, and just fall apart. So,
yeah, I'm kind of you mentioned this, there's guys that have mastered that, and therefore those guys probably have a lot of experience. How is that what you're seeing? How do you develop this trait? Is it just you have to be in that situation a lot of times before you can, develop or high pressure situations?
I think that's one thing for sure, is being in it as many times as you possibly can, going to as many tournaments as you can. just, knowing that feeling, knowing how to deal with that feeling. And then, like a lot of it is just, who you are, just personality, and, not everyone's, competitive like that or, can handle it.
Mm-hmm.
But, definitely anything's achievable. And the more you go and the more you learn and just know how to deal with those situations is the better. So.
Yeah. So how do you feel the crossover is? Do you think that being stone cold in tournament helps you a ton being stone cold in the woods, or do you think it's kind of inverse and it helps a little bit? Or how's it affected you since you've gotten so much in the tournament archery, from the stand?
Yeah. So I definitely think that tournament archery helps, especially like I do a lot of self-filming.
Yeah.
And I've gotten my ratio is a lot better at getting the kill on film than not getting. I don't think I've missed an opportunity in a long time at getting one on film.
Yeah, it's just because you're a baller.
Well, no, I think I think that tournament archery has taught me, in those pressure moments, in that 89th arrow or 90th arrow, focusing in and knowing that, in tournament archery, you look at it as every arrow counts as one arrow, and it's not as a cumulative, all 90 arrows. You look at it as every single arrow is its own arrow. Mm-hmm. So in hunting, you can think of it a similar way, that this moment, even though it's a high pressure situation, it's still, it's real time, everything, you're in control of it, so just slowing down, just thinking through everything, making sure camera's good, everything. And then you focus in on, shooting the animal or whatever. But, 100% think that if I was just one or the other, I wouldn't be as good.
Yeah, that's cool. And this past year was my first year doing any self-filming at all, really. I had dabbled in a little bit of film stuff when I was in high school, but it's like you're talking about, like with a little handy cam, just, just doing your thing because it's fun with your buddies or whatever. But since I started hanging out with Tyler, he's all about that film stuff and talked me into doing, some of it, and we do a lot of it together. But the self-filming for me was super new this year, and it is astounding how bumfuzzled you can get whenever you got animals around and you're just trying to figure out where's the record button, and it's something you've done a million times, but the pressure, and it's a whole new pressure, because I feel like I got to touch a game or two when it comes to shooting animals. I used to have an occupation where I got to shoot a lot at animals. So, pulling the trigger, being a trigger man for me is not that big of a deal. Of course, whenever you have a target buck in there, it's a different thing altogether. But still, I feel like I'm pretty composed. But then you start throwing electronics into the mix and trying to frame stuff up, man, it is insane. So, why did you decide you wanted to self-film in the first place?
That's a great question. I was actually thinking about this the other day. I used to film my dad every now and again. We used to go on these, in Michigan, it's a big thing. There's trophy hunts or whatever, where it's a big 1,000-acre ranch, and you can go shoot wild pigs or whatever. And for his work, he used to go on a trip every year. And this is when I was 8, 9 years old, so before I would hunt or anything, and I would carry around a video camera and just film everything because I didn't have anything else to do. And that's actually where it really started. But in high school, I think junior year, me and a couple buddies thought it'd be a good idea to create an Instagram page and try to get some hunts on film and stuff. And we were actually in a entrepreneurial marketing class, and we had to create a business. Mm-hmm. So we created a outdoor TV show business type thing. So we actually played it all out, and I think we got up to 4,000 followers on Instagram and stuff, and put together some hunts, and we got 3 or 4 kills that fall semester during school. Yeah. And it was kind of cool, and I stuck with it, and the other guys didn't, and I just worked at stealing the video camera out of the family cupboard to, record baseball games. I'm not kidding. Record baseball games. And I bought a $30 Gorilla Arm, whatever, and did that for a year and got 2 films or two hunts on film, and worked my way up and bought my own stuff. And I mean, now I'm upgraded to, I guess you could say production quality stuff, but I just enjoy it. Like at first, I just love the confirmation and just the huge excitement of knowing you shot the deer, but then you also got it on film that you can watch forever, you know?
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of kills on film that I haven't done anything with, you know, in the beginning stages. I just enjoyed having that memory, I guess you could say. But now I just love sharing it and, you know, just the whole experience.
Sure, man. It's just another one of those things where you can just add another, I guess, edge to what you do and put yourself under more pressure, and it just prepares you for more pressure in the future, right? So it all makes sense.
For sure.
So on that note, I kind of had a question about, you know, target is a big part of your life, right? And this is kind of a debate that I've had with my buddies, you know, around and different people, but I'm sure you've shot a lot of flat targets and a lot of 3D. Do you feel like one or the other really does prepare you better for a hunting scenario, and why?
It's a great question. I definitely think shooting 3D targets is, you know, definitely more tailored towards hunting situation because it's an animal. But shooting a target definitely, you know, obviously has scoring rings and stuff, but it shows how good you are, you know, even if you're not scoring. So it really, you know, shows what you need to work on. If you're working on form, if you're working on, you know, basically trying to become a better archer to be a better hunter, you know. So shooting a paper target, I mean, I shoot a paper target quite a bit with my hunting bow. Actually, I'd probably say I shoot 90% on a paper target with my hunting bow, and then only like 10% on a 3D target. So yeah, I mean, target is big for making sure you're, you know, dialed in, and you personally don't have anything you need to work on.
So keeping like these bigger concepts in mind as we transition, like I kind of want to talk about the details of good shooting habits. So kind of shooting form and stuff like that. So when you start creating habits out of form, what are we looking at first?
Yeah. So there's a few, you know, basic building blocks, you know, stance, your bow hand, your draw hand, you know, anchor point, you know, there's all that stuff. And assuming that you have the correct draw length and everything, you know, because that's a big thing too. A lot of guys like to get speed out of their bows, and they'll have the draw length about 3 inches longer than they actually should. Even TV guys, which is obnoxious, but so I mean, you know, there's big things. You know, I can narrow in on a few. So anchor point's a huge thing, and you know, as we're hunting and we're whitetail hunters and going in November in the Midwest, we like to wear a lot of clothes. So you know, an anchor point can get kind of muffled underneath, you know, a face mask or, you know, a high collar or something. So for me, it's always super important that I either am wearing clothes that can keep my, you know, jawbone face exposed if I'm using a trigger release to really, you know, anchor behind that ear correctly, or, you know, whatever your anchor point is. And I really, really try not to shoot with a face mask, because even though you might be able to practice good with a face mask if you practice with it, but when that 160-inch, you know, target buck steps out and you're all, you know, jacked up on adrenaline, and you pull back and it feels foreign, like I'm for real, and it feels foreign that there's a little thin piece of cloth in between you, and you anchor a little bit different and your peep sight's not lined up 100%. I mean, that's real scenario right there, you know. So a big thing, you know, anchor point, making sure that you 100% know your anchor point in your hunting clothes. You know, I'll practice in all my hunting clothes at least a couple times a season, you know, make sure everything's good and you got clearance and you're not going to smack your arm because you got some big poofy, you know, coat or something like that.
Yeah.
And,
so on the anchor point, can you explain what you feel like? I mean, I guess they can vary, but what does your anchor point look like?
So mine, I shoot, well, for target, I shoot like back tension, handheld releases and stuff, but I really enjoy just a standard index trigger finger for hunting. So I'll put my my first pointer finger knuckle right behind my ear, and then kind of run my thumb down my jawbone so I can like feel the back of my jawbone. And then I'll do corner of the mouth on my string, and then the tip of the nose on my string. So I have, 1, 2, 3 points of contact. That's the main thing you're looking for. Anchor points can vary, and, various anchor points do work, but the most important thing is you have various points of contact. So whatever those points are is fine. But if you just have one point in contact, like let's say you're floating away from your face and you just touch the nose to the string, that would be 1. So obviously that wouldn't be ideal. 2 is okay, but 3 is best. Having something, like your face against your jawbone, nose to the string, and then like your knuckle in the back of your ear. The more anchor point, solid foundations you have, the better.
Yeah, for sure. And you said a couple things that I really like, and I wanted you to maybe expand upon a little bit. Let's start first with the nose on the string, and I just kind of have a quandary about that because I'm a nose on the string guy too. I've got a big old nose, so it's pretty easy to make happen. It sticks out there pretty far. But
All right.
I shoot about a 31.5-inch axle-to-axle bow. And
Dang.
Yeah. So,
actual axe, though. I thought you were saying drawing.
No, not draw length at all. I'm not a big guy at all. I wish. That'd be taking my ear off if that was the case.
Yeah.
No, ATA. My nose is pretty easily contacted to the string because the angles are shallower, Right. But whenever, like say for instance, I've shot some of these newer bows that are the compact style, and I have a really tough time making that third point of contact with my nose. Would you, like, if I was to go to something like that shorter ATA style bow, would you suggest trying to, I guess, move your face around to make that happen, or just do away with that traditional point of contact?
I definitely wouldn't go away from it because having the tip of the nose on your string, even like the your nose, is fine. Or not fine, is key.
Yeah.
So a couple of things you can do. I mean, you try to keep your head as upright as you possibly can. But I've seen guys, especially in the competition with some of these long axle bows, sometimes they'll have to slightly turn their chin if you're right-handed to the left. So, slightly turn it to make it work. My advice would be to definitely try to figure out how to keep that nose contact on the string, but you'd also, on the flip side, you also don't want to be burying your nose into the string so much that it's bending it.
Yeah, sure.
Because if that happens, then you're dealing with torque issues and everything. And if you continue to dig in as you keep holding, like you keep digging in, then every shot can be different. So what's perfect is just slight nose contact. And yeah, so like what you're saying, you're probably like the triax or something. Is that what you're thinking?
Yeah.
Like 28. Yeah. So, that bow's, it is different. And you definitely may have to adjust your anchor point a little bit, and you may have to bring your hand up on your face a little bit to allow that string to be higher because it is on a steeper angle, So yeah, definitely don't go, just throw it away. Try to figure out how to make it work. And I mean, if I can try to explain it, but there's so many resources on like YouTube, Knock on Archery. A lot of guys talk about it.
Sure.
George Riles, I don't know if you're familiar with him.
I'm not.
But he's so George Riles is like the king of coaching in the tournament archery. He does a lot of series called Thing a Week with Last Chance Archery. So if you search like Last Chance Archery on YouTube, he has a whole series that he dives pretty deep, but he's very articulate about how he explains things, and it's very easy. I go hunt him every now and again when I need a refresher. So yeah,
that's cool.
They're good.
Well, we'll be sure to link to that in our show notes for listeners. The other thing that I wanted to ask you about is, there's all these fancy styles of releases, and I've never really experimented with much. I've messed with the back tension just a touch, just in a shop, just playing around, and of course didn't like it because I didn't have anybody actually coaching me. I was just playing with it.
Right.
And I still don't think I'd ever want to hunt with one. I know people do. And then there's the thumb style, and then the traditional, index finger trigger release. And that's what I like to hunt with as well. And it's interesting to me, you as a tournament archer also like to do that. And my justification has always been, I have complete control of when the bow goes off with that style of release, and that's just why I like it. Now, I know it can lead to punching and stuff like that, but at least that's kind of my take on it. Why do you think that you really like that trigger style release?
Yeah, I mean, it's a similar thing, mainly for me, I just like that it's on my wrist 100% of the time.
Yeah.
So I don't have to fumble around in my pocket.
Hard to lose.
I was out west a couple years ago, and I lost my release, threw it in my pocket, ran after a mule deer, and it reached in my pocket again, and it was gone.
Oh, no.
So
did you finger shoot at that point in time, or did you just...
No, I had a backup.
Oh,
I'm no amateur. What are you talking about?
No kidding. What, you carry an extra release in your pocket on the stalk?
I've thought about it.
In my backpack, 100%.
Man,
yeah.
I've thought about it.
What a G. That is, that's cool.
Even a wrist strap, you always need a backup release.
I got one in my
Always.
bow case, but I guess that's not going to help me a lot in the moment. So that's...
Yeah, in the tree stand, that's not going to do you.
Yeah.
No.
No, that's a good point, man. Good point. So continue on with your point. Sorry.
Yeah, so trigger release. So basically deciding what to shoot as a bow hunter, trigger, back tension, or thumb button.
Mm-hmm.
I always see it's comical because a lot of guys see all of the tournament archers shooting back tension, and they're just a bow hunter, which nothing wrong with that. And they want to pick up a back tension because they feel like it will make them shoot better. That's kind of the wrong way to look at it. It's not going to make you shoot better necessarily, but if you know how to use it properly, it can make you shoot better. It's just kind of a weird way to say it, but I'm trying to interpret what I'm thinking. But so, for example, like Levi Morgan, I think I watched a video on him once explaining it well. He shoots a back tension all the time. So he shoots it in tournaments. It's basically an extension of his body. So he knows when that release is going off. He knows exactly, what it is. So to him, it's essentially a trigger. He can rotate through the shot and let it go off whenever he wants. And that's what you want out of a back tension. It's a rotation. It's basically a sear, once it falls off the cliff, it goes off. And you do that in tournament archery by pushing and pulling, rotating your back shoulder, and it's supposed to surprise you. So you just hold on the middle and push and pull, and the shot goes off. So actually, I just watched this video the other day. That's why I'm going back to it. But Levi said, if you can't hold on the deer for a couple seconds to push and pull and let the shot go off, you probably shouldn't take that shot.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought that was very interesting because I also think it's very true. In those quick situations where you have to, punch the trigger or, whatever, it's probably when the deer's leaving or turned around or alert or, you know what I'm saying? Or walking. Yeah. So, and, I have hunted with a back tension before, and, I know my back tension very well, and I was fine with it. But one big thing was, and they sell them with a strap, you can connect to it, but is that I just had in my pocket. So, if you should be able to, if you're a good archer with good form and you understand the thumb button, the trigger, and the back tension, you should be able to pick all of them up and shoot equally as good, at least within a couple points. Mm-hmm. The biggest issue is when people pick something up and think it'll automatically make them shoot better. And that's just the wrong way of looking at it. You need to understand it. You need to use it correctly. And then it can potentially make you shoot better. But the main thing, you can use back tension in a trigger, you can use back tension in a thumb button, and you can use, back tension in an actual back tension.
Yeah. So I think you mentioned the bow hand as being another critical part of your form earlier. Yeah. Can you kind of run through that and talk about correct form within your bow hand?
Yeah. So pretty basic. When you look at your hand, it's called the lifeline. It runs up the center of your palm. Your bow grip should be on that line to slightly towards your thumb on that line, the center of the bow grip. And your knuckles should be at a 45-degree angle. So that's like your standard, let's start here type, bow grip. And a lot of people just run it like that. You don't want to be getting too far into any of the meat on your hand. You pretty much want that solid, right on that lifeline, little closer to the thumb. All in there is nice and solid. And that's where, when you're at full draw and you run a line straight from your elbow to your bow hand, that's where you're in line, and, everything lines up. So, and you won't hit your arm or anything if you do that correctly.
Mm-hmm. So what do your fingers look like in that?
Fingers, like in your bow hand?
Yeah.
I rest them right on the front of the bow.
Okay.
So like with my hunting rig, I don't have a wrist strap or anything. I just kind of rest down the front. I don't death grip it. That's
Right.
one big major thing that a lot of guys do, especially, new bow hunters and stuff, is they'll death grip it like a baseball bat. You don't want to do that at all, because you'll end up torquing the bow, which will screw up the tune and, in simple terms, not hit where you're aiming at.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really important just to either have some sort of wrist strap or something so you're confident that you're not going to drop your bow. But just rest your fingers right on the front of it, and when the bow goes off, just let it kind of float in your hand. You don't want to grab it right after off, or either, because that's going to be, then you'll anticipate the whole shot and it'll just go downhill from there. So just nice. I mean, archery is just a soft sport, and nothing is forced. Nothing is, you don't want to be punching anything. Everything is 100% natural, surprise, basically nice and relaxed front hand.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sometimes I want to punch things, but I think it's different than what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So what else is key for a guy that may be sitting 20 plus feet up in a stand, shooting at a whitetail down on the ground?
Yeah. So first thing is so we talked about, anchor, bow grip and everything, but now you're shooting at something, at an angle downwards. So what a lot of guys do is they'll just draw back and point their bow arm straight down and not move your torso or anything else. So now you just jacked up your anchor point and everything, because you didn't rotate down with it. Mm-hmm. So a good training tool to practice shooting out of a tree stand is to draw back at, plane, just 0 degrees, and then rotate and bend at the hips and keep everything in line and bend down towards the animal. So you're essentially not moving anything from your belt line up. You're just bending down. So that keeps, your elbow in line and everything anchor point wise on your face, exactly how it was, as if you're shooting flat. Because what a lot of times will happen is people just, point straight down and then they'll miss high. It's the hardest, the most likely place where people miss when they just do that is high, because everything's jacked up and they're looking out the bottom of their peep or their top of their peep or something. So yeah. And I mean, you can even sit in a chair. A good training tool also is just sit in a chair and then just bend at your hip or bend at your waist, just as far as you can, and just keep stretching, because it can feel like a stretch, but and even standing up, you do it also. And standing up is even a little better, because you can kind of use your hips and everything. So
do you shoot both ways when you're in stand, or do you prefer to shoot standing up, or?
I prefer shooting sitting down, actually. Yeah. Couple reasons. You're not moving around as much when the deer is there. So you just sit down, grab your bow, or you're already sitting, just grab your bow, get the camera on it, and way less movement. And that's really it. You just move around. In my head, why would I be wanting to move around, standing and pacing around and stuff? Yeah. Obviously, if the deer is off your right shoulder, you got to stand up and turn around. But I try to set up, 70% of my shots off my left shoulder. I can grab my bow while I'm sitting down. I have my camera arm so I can, reach it while sitting down and everything. And I'm just ready to rock. Yeah.
See, I'm with you on that. I like to shoot sitting down a lot. KC thinks I'm crazy sometimes, but I kind of like that as well. For the average Joe that's like just kind of a working class dude. What is there a great way to start practicing these techniques throughout the summer, and to think that like by the fall these will become second nature, or is this like probably going to be like a several years process? I mean, I know it's never ending, but you know what I'm saying?
I mean, it all depends. If someone puts in the work in the summer and, and reaches out to their local club or their local pro shop and have someone watch them and really have someone coach them along this process. Cause it's hard to do on your own. I mean, I have a coach and I've had several coaches throughout my life to help me shoot, because it's a big self-awareness thing. Am I actually doing this? Unless you look at a mirror, video record yourself or something, it's hard to know if you're actually doing it.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, yeah, you can get way better with some simple things over a summer, no doubt. But can you, become the world's best archer in a summer? Probably not. But,
Yeah.
but you can definitely make leaps and bounds by just, even pulling out the bow 3 times a night or 3 times a week and shooting 30 arrows. So you're just fresh,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's big. That's huge. A lot of guys will pick it up in, September 15th when the opener is October 1st. And sometimes it's terrible and they open up their bow and their broadhead broke their bowstring.
No,
and now they gotta run into the pro shop and get a new bowstring and everything's jacked up now,
Yeah.
So, and I mean this can dive deep, we're hunters and it's a responsibility to be as accurate as we possibly can, cause we're dealing with living animals, like it can go back to, it's our responsibility to be as best as we can to shoot these things.
Right. Yeah. I think that, for me, when I played football, you didn't want to be in the middle of a game with like thousands of people watching you and try to go, I got to think about this little technique thing with my footwork while the ball's in the air or whatever, you wanted that to be a second nature thing. And so I think of it kind of the same way. You hope that you kind of run through scenarios throughout the summer and you work on your form and technique and that kind of thing so that when, like you said, that big 160 comes in, you're not thinking about all the things, like you can almost naturally pull the bow and have your 3 anchor points and bend at the waist and that kind of thing, without thinking about it.
Yeah, 100%. And that's just huge. You shouldn't be worrying about, shooting when that time comes. You just need to be focused about it in the moment.
Yeah.
Getting a range on them and stuff,
Yeah, for sure, man. So I want to talk arrows for a second. Can we do that?
Yeah, definitely.
All right, cool. So I got a little story for you.
Right.
Whenever I was, a mid-teenager, 15 or 16 years old, really getting into the bow hunting thing, I had a hand-me-down bow, go to the pro shop, and I show up with like the arrows that my friend had given me with the bow, and the guy's like, man, those aren't the right arrows, and he whips out these things that I swear are like the diameter of a softball bat, like giant aluminum arrows. Yeah. And he's like, yeah, man, this is what you need to be shooting. And so for about a year or two, I had these big old thick aluminum shaft arrows. Well, fast forward, 2 or 15 years, however long that's been since then. And pretty much from what I understand is there was a time whenever people saw tournament archers using thick shafted arrows and decided that, well, that's what we need to be using in hunting arrows. And that's really not the case, right?
Well, I mean, there was a time Easton was making what was called a 2315 aluminum shaft that was meant for hunting. And that was really before the whole carbon arrow boom, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
I don't know exactly how many years ago it was, but it was like the retro camo on it and stuff.
That's the ones I had. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, those are the cat's pajamas, like back when those were the thing. Seriously, everyone had them. So,
dude, that's just an expression we don't hear much in Texas, so I'm going to start using it. I like it.
Yeah, I've been hanging out with all those Georgia boys.
That's cool. That's cool. Yeah. So anyways. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, actually, that 2315 arrow shaft is a very, very popular indoor tournament archery arrow shaft today. Like it's the premier one. So that's what you said that. But I mean, no one's using that now really, unless they're super old school. And really, there's nothing wrong with it, but they bend because they're aluminum, I mean, they're meant for, there's a reason why they don't sell them anymore. And they switched everything to carbon, I mean, you have the FMJs and stuff that are aluminum coated, or, aluminum and then carbon, but the carbon keeps the aluminum straight. So yeah, I mean, that was a thing. People shot those at deer and stuff.
Yeah, for sure. I killed my first deer with one, I think. So they at least work, right? It was cool. And that was the old like cellophane fletchings, that you could see through and stuff. Cool, good times.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Way before social media, but anyways, yeah, exactly, man. Goodness gracious. But so. Can you talk a little bit about like what a tournament arrow versus a hunting arrow looks like, and maybe touch on like what FOC front of center does for a hunter?
Yeah. So tournament archery, there's a couple forms of tournament archery that require different arrows. So indoor, big thing is trying to shoot as big as an arrow as you can to try to cut lines. So that was we were just talking about a 23-15. So the diameter is 23. We go all the way up to like a 27 size arrow. So quite a bit bigger. So like indoors, a lot of guys will run 27s or 25s even. I actually shoot 25s. But yeah, so bigger arrows inside and then small arrows outdoors. So when we shoot the USA archery events, we shoot 50 meters. And we'll shoot an arrow that's called like the Easton X10 Pro Tour, for example, is the one I shoot. It's like smaller than a pencil, like super small.
Cool.
And that runs the same like FMJ technology, except there's carbon on the outside and aluminum on the inside. Which it's pretty interesting. And then it's also like barreled. So on both of the ends, it's skinnier than in the center.
Whoa.
Yeah, it's actually a really unique concept, but it cuts through the wind essentially and just stabilizes, better. And we'll run tiny little fletchings to minimize on wind drag and everything's good. Because sometimes we'll shoot in 20-mile-an-hour winds and we'll have to aim off, in the 9 ring or the 8 ring at times it just hit the middle.
Wow.
So yeah, that's kind of, and that goes with field rounds and which you shoot like a golf course style in the woods, multiple distances. And then for 3D, like competition 3D, there's a good variety of stuff because you are shooting a little bit of distance, but it is known yardage and everything with very little wind in most situations. So a lot of guys will run like a 23 diameter arrow, 24, 25 diameter. And then, some guys will run like an X10 super skinny. I've shot a couple 3D tournaments like that. And that's definitely one of the faster options. 3D is a speed game too, because the smaller your sight tape is, the less, your arrow will drop, Yeah. So the guys, like Levi Morgan shooting his type style, there's different styles in 3D. So there's known yardage and then unknown yardage. And Levi and stuff shoots unknown, so he literally has to guess his yardage. So having a fast bow for that especially helps.
Yeah, sure.
But the known yardage side still helps, but it's not 100% necessary because you can just range it and put it right on it.
Yeah, that's
so. And then FOC, honestly, I don't even pay attention to FOC. I shot a 550 grain arrow this year, which was like a dangerous game arrow, and a lot of people made fun of me, but I don't really care. I just wanted something that was heavy, and I wanted to try it out. So I ran a 5mm FMJ with 100 grade helix broadhead out front, which is like just a 2-blade solid, piece of steel. Dual beveled, and then 70 brass up front. So I was running a really heavy setup, and I think I had like 9 out of 9 pass-throughs. Like everything I kill, like stuck in the ground.
Yeah, that's cool, dude.
Yeah, and I shot a 200-pound pig, and it just like zipped right through it. So that was my setup this year. Only downfall of that is it is a little slower. So I did have like 2 deer duck me completely.
Ooh.
So yeah. But I don't know. I think next year I'll definitely run a little lighter setup. I don't know. I just wanted to try, especially out west. I had I shot at a deer that ran completely out of the way before the arrow got there. So like it literally heard my bow and was like, I'm out of here. And it literally could have, yeah, it was terrible.
Wow.
Oh man, that's
So,
tough. Yeah, I had
yeah.
a experience where I had a target buck is I guess 2016 season.
Yeah.
That just straight up ducked 14 inches and just skimmed hair. And it was just like one of those things where ever since then I've been just trying to really figure out if it was more of I need to change my aim point or shoot a faster setup or whatever. But so something that I've noticed that you have a lot of success with, and maybe it's just the videos I've watched of yours, and it might not be a motif, but it seems that everything you shoot doesn't know it's been hit, and it like walks off or kind of jogs off like 20 or 30 yards, and then you see it fall. As opposed to everything that I've shot usually runs off like a banshee, you know.
Yeah.
And I have a hypothesis to why it is, but I want you to tell me what you think first.
Okay. I mean, it could be a couple things. Well, I'm trying to think through what I killed this year. The first 2 does I killed, they ran quite a ways, about 100 yards. And then I mean, my out west stuff doesn't really count too much because that's different. And then the buck I shot in Michigan, that one just really jumped up and died 40 yards away.
Yeah.
And then my Iowa one did the same thing.
Mm-hmm. And then the Moosehorn buck, I think he didn't run far, right?
That was my Michigan one. Yeah.
Oh, that was this year?
The old dude.
Yeah.
Oh, no, the one horn you're saying?
No, I was talking about the old buck, yeah.
Oh, yeah, that old buck. Yeah, so, I mean, it could be a couple things. Really, with whitetail hunt, it has to do with habitat, in my opinion.
Really?
So, we do a lot of hinge cutting and habitat work on a 200-acre farm that I have permission on. And we had a guy out kind of help us. And my dad is actually really, really big into it. On our home property for like the past 8 or 9 years, we've went from seeing like a 6-point every couple of weeks to shooting like 120-inch deer in Michigan.
Yeah.
So, we went all out. It's my dad's hobby now. So
that's cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's really cool. So on this new farm, we did a lot of hinge cutting work, and we probably hinge cut 200 or 300 trees so far this summer or this spring.
Jeez.
So I think it has a lot to do with how the deer is in when you shoot them. So, obviously that Moosehorn buck, that really old one I shot, it was as calm could be. It was actually peeing on its glands when I shot it.
Yeah.
So it had no idea what was going on. And I think that was just, there's not a lot of pressure on that farm. We try to hunt it really well. And I just center punched him double lunged, and he really had no idea what was going on. So he wasn't, besides feeling hurt and stuff, he just jumped up and was like, what the heck happened?
Mm-hmm.
And I've had that happen to several other bucks. But in situations like those 2 does I shot, that's on a completely different farm that is high pressure, and we can't do any work with. The farmer won't let us or anything.
Yeah.
So it's like shooting a deer in a park, and it doesn't feel comfortable. And it was both of them were on high alert pretty much. And they just, a bat out of hell got out of there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, a few, guys might say, well, my bow was super quiet and, they didn't hear it coming, which is valid. But if they didn't hear it coming and they just had something zip through them and they were high alert, I really think they would have ran the heck out of there,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Or, another thing is if a buck is just, dazed and confused in the November 11th, he doesn't really know what's going on because he's 5 miles away from his home range and he just got shot and he really doesn't know what to do.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
So what were you thinking?
Well, my hypothesis was, after watching yours, I really noticed it, is that you're shooting that fixed blade broadhead. I shoot an expandable, a Rage Extreme, which is, a pretty aggressive expandable. At least that's what I shot the past 2 years. I didn't shoot a deer this year with my bow, so that's fun to talk about. but anyways, and every time I've shot a deer with that, they, run off like crazy, alert or not. And I've kind of thought it was that slapping motion of those blades popping open. I don't know if it's like they can feel that more, or if it's a sound thing. You know, I know they kind of spark and make a little sound sometimes, and I didn't know if maybe you thought maybe the fixed blade versus expandable might make a difference there.
I mean, it definitely could be. I mean, unless we hook up some testers to a deer and shoot it, we don't really know.
It'd be tough to do, especially with these jumpy ones.
We need to get a hold of some college kid and just say, like, here's your senior project. Just
hey, you know some of those, man. You're still doing it.
I'm in it. Maybe I'll do that.
That would be your graduate studies, man. It can be
my thesis or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
Go back for a master's.
For advertising. No. I don't know if anybody would hire you if you shot people, but that's fine.
No, it'd be a broadhead advertising campaign.
There you go.
There you go. Perfect.
Raging the cage.
Outside the box. Yeah. So back to what you said. I mean, it could be definitely. I definitely know that two blade, when it zips through it it's pretty clean. Mm-hmm. It's like taking a knife and cutting a piece of paper. I mean, it's not tearing or making a big gash. It's just like it's surgical.
Yeah.
And that's what I like, especially if I hit like in the no zone, or if I hit, somewhere, I hit a deer out west in the neck. And if I hit a deer in the neck with a rage right there, I really think it would have died, but it didn't because of the two blade. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of deer that are hit with just a sleek little two blade, not hit good, heal up and they're fine.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a paper cut. If you get a paper cut on your finger, you put that flat back over and it heals up in a day or two. Mm-hmm. That's an analogy I always think of. If you take a 3-blade or a rage or, something big and you hit the deer like in the butt,
yeah,
and it's open, infected, and it could die like a month later,
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, your point may be valid. I don't know. We'll have to hook it up and get some college students to do it.
Perfect, man. Let us know what the results are on that.
Yeah, I'll post it.
So I know this is like real situational, but when you draw back on a deer and prepare to shoot it, can you kind of run us through your thought process maybe, or maybe you just go into autopilot? I don't know, but what are you thinking?
Yeah, that is very situational, but part of me goes in autopilot, but part of me tries to keep. And autopilot, it can break it down into conscious and subconscious minds. I don't know. Are you guys like familiar? I've delved really deep into your subconscious mind and your conscious mind because of archery. Because archery is very, very mental with the whole pressure situation, and so is hunting in moments like that. So your subconscious is everything like putting toothpaste on your toothbrush and brushing your teeth in the morning. Like, you really don't have to think about that too much, or like opening up your phone and unlocking it. Those are things you do hundreds and hundreds of times over and over again that your subconscious engraved, and you really don't need to think about it. Conscious mind is like driving downtown somewhere where you've never driven before, like your full attention, like trying to figure out what's going on. So yeah, definitely part of me wants my subconscious to take over, like my form aspect. Like, I'm really not thinking anything form aspect. But I run my binos and then my rangefinder on a little rope that's right perfect to grab up whenever I need. So I'm constantly ranging, moving the camera, ranging, making sure the camera's focused, ranging, make sure it's recording, ranging, moving my sight, and then, I'll pull back, and I really try to pick a spot on the deer. And in my very first bee season episode, I smoked a doe opening day, like 30 minutes of light, and I hit exactly where I was aiming, and that deer didn't really duck, like just perfect double lung in the heart, like center up and down, just right in half. Then I had another doe stroll through about an hour later, and I did the same thing at it, but it was slightly alert and at like 35 yards. And it ducked the crap out of my string, and I ended up just like nicking the back.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so I was like, I really thought about that, and I was like, I'm going to just take this as a lesson, to just really pay attention, and, different situations of deer habit, or whatever the deer is acting like, or whatever you can tell, make sure you pay attention to that. So the very next day, I hunted that afternoon, or no, I hunted that. It was the very next hunt. It was a very fortunate opening day. It was the very next hunt, and I had this doe, for real. I had this doe stroll out. We're on like doe patrol. It's like opening day. So doe strolls out at like 25. Pretty chill. It's like eating alfalfa, or I forget what it was, but it was eating something in the farmer's field. And I was like, I'm going to aim like 2 inches below this deer and just see what happens. So I range it, plenty of time, camera on it, just like no problem, pull back. I literally aimed like my fiber optic pin, the top of it was just touching the belly. Mm-hmm. And I shot, and I hit that heart like inside out. And that deer ducked right into it, and it ran like 100 yards and died.
Wow.
So my thoughts were, it was super quiet. It was kind of residential, legal, but kind of residential. So there was a dog barking that it kept paying attention to. And so it was like slightly alert, and it was out in the middle of a field. And pretty much anytime you shoot at a deer, it ducks at least like an inch or a little bit. Mm-hmm. And it was a mature doe. So it's like a, 4.5-year-old buck, smart. And I just went for it, and it worked out. So, that was definitely big, like success for me for feeling out a situation and following through and knowing that deer probably is going to duck.
Right.
But I shot my Michigan buck, that old buck, I didn't aim low for that one because I knew he was peeing on his glands. He was just got done chasing a doe, and he had no idea what was going on. So I just, held center and shot. And when I watched the video in slow motion, he does not move until that broadhead touches him.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, if I aimed 2 inches below that, I would have missed that deer,
Yeah.
So, and this goes, I'm kind of going on a tangent here, but the buddy I go hunting with, Travis Johnson, he has a hypothesis of deer don't hear the bow, deer hear the arrow flying at them.
Mm-hmm.
So what he's done before is, and we've both done actually, is do tests where I'll like stand behind a tree right next to the target, and he'll shoot an arrow and we'll listen to it come down, and he'll have like 4 different variations of fletchings and broadheads and everything. And it really makes a difference.
Yeah.
Like if you shoot a broadhead with holes in it, like a 2-blade with holes all over it, or a 3-blade, and then you shoot some honking fletchings and you shoot it, it sounds like a freaking freight train going down there.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then if you shoot, like a sleek little, like the Helix has no holes in it, it's just 2-blade, and then run the smallest fletchings you possibly can, it cuts it by like 50%.
Wow.
So, the industry has kind of made bows being quiet as an advertising standpoint. They're trying to sell bows, and they're trying to figure out how can we sell bows,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, quieter, faster, stronger, whatever.
Yeah.
So, I mean, for real. So, I think a big thing is the actual arrow going down to the deer. They hear it, because a deer's reaction time is very, very quick. So, an arrow coming at you, you'll see their ear twitch, and then they'll start to drop, like 3/4 of the way that the arrow's already there, So I don't know. Food for thought. That's what goes through my mind.
believe in it, man. I don't know if you knew this or not, but the Romans actually put holes in their broadheads to scare their foes in war. Did you know that?
I did not know that.
Yeah, so that the Romans, they had iron or brass broadheads on their arrows, and they would actually put holes on one side, that way it would whistle going through the air and much slower reaction time, of course, but scare the people they're in war with. So it's a thing.
It's like a wiffle ball.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, okay, so did you ever grow up playing with those whistle footballs, and you throw them at
Heck
night,
yeah.
and they're like the scariest thing ever coming through the air. You don't know where it's going to hit you.
Yeah,
it's the same kind of thing. Yeah, exactly.
Just stand in the dark and have your buddy chuck a wiffle whatever at you, and you'll know exactly what a deer feels like.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm right there with you. I think they hear it. I also think that okay, so the buck that I missed 2 years ago, I had to grunt stop before he got out of my last shooting lane. Yeah. And he's a public land, mature buck. He's on high alert anyways. And then I grunt stop him, and not only does he stop and look, but he actually looks up at our tree, like where I'm at. And I think that he actually saw my arrow in flight.
Heck yeah.
There's no way to know for sure, but I mean, his line of sight. I mean, it's easy to think he actually saw the thing.
Or saw you move when you shot, or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that the arrow makes a big difference in it. And quite honestly, the other day I commented on one of your YouTube videos actually and asked you about some fletchings that you had fletched up on.
That was you?
Yeah, that was me actually. Yeah.
Yeah, I responded, right?
Yeah, you did. I really appreciate that. Yeah,
dude, no, for real. This is my biggest pet peeve is I hate when all of these big people on YouTube and like in the hunting industry and everything, and all these people are commenting and they just let them sit.
Yeah.
You should try being in the music industry. It's even worse.
Oh, I'm sure.
I've been there.
I mean, it's, yeah. Anyways, keep going.
So, follow Chris B on all his social platforms. He'll talk to you.
Send him as many messages as you want.
Send him a bunch of messages. No, I really appreciate your reply because I'd never seen that lighted fletch before. But when you said that, that's the thought that came to mind. I was like, man, that's like a freaking glow stick flying through the air. You know, think a deer would see that or be spooked from it? And I guess you haven't had any bad things happen with it, but...
Well, not really. Funny story with that is they're not a sponsor or anything, but I did reach out to them, and they sent me those on accident.
Yeah.
I just wanted the regular ones, and they sent me those. And I'm like, well, I might as well just give them a try. And it pretty much saved me a couple hours of fletching my arrows. So I was like, it's a win-win. So you literally just slip them on. And I've been made fun of a lot by using them because I mean it's not normal. It's not what people usually do, and but out of video standpoint and as an ease of use, they're pretty dang great. They're technically it's called the nocturnal Helios. It's like this plastic fletching that slips over the end of your arrow, and there's a lighted nock on the end of it. And they're technically called a lighted vanes, because there's a little clear part on the backside of the vanes that it's actually illuminated when the lighted nock is up. And I think that was major for my videos this year. Because like lighted nocks, unless it's dim or like, right at dark, they don't really pop. But I think my videos really, really, really popped because of those fletchings. Like most of the time you can watch that arrow sink right into there,
Yeah.
And I mean, they fly legit. I mean, I know how to shoot, and I was shooting them at like 80 yards and stacking them. So performance wise, A+, ease, A+, ease of use, A+. The only thing that I don't really like about them is exactly what we're talking about is they're a little noisy.
Yeah.
Because there's 6 fletchings. So there's just, by the nature of it, there's more surface area for, air to go by. But if I've managed it this year, if I'm going to use them next year, I don't know. So
cool. So I think the film that Casey commented on might have been the Iowa film that you released recently. So you decided to shoot that buck on a walk, and I was just wondering why you made that decision and what you did to execute it.
That was kill mode taking over.
Yeah, for sure.
So, oh gosh, let me just recap on that hunt.
Sure.
Real fast.
Yep.
So that was me and my dad putting in preference points, and we had a killer piece of property lined up going into our 4th year, and that fell through last minute. So we were in a mad scramble to figure out some property, and I know the guys from Muddy Outdoors a little kind of well.
Yeah.
And we reached out to them. He's like, hey, do you have any ground, or whatever? So we ended up, just working with them on some stuff and got a pretty good piece. It didn't have any agricultural on it or anything. So we were pretty much just working with funnels and, trails and everything. So summertime we went and walked it and hung, I think, 6 or 7 tree stands, and we just headed out there in prime time November. I think we got there November 6th, and just hunted and had a couple great opportunities. I had like a 160 not on film coming behind me and smell me, and a couple. I had one other. Yeah, I know. I had another like 150 inch that just I saw for a couple seconds and chased a doe by, and so I hunted for 9 days, and 7 of those days were dark to dark, like in the stand. So I was pretty dang exhausted by the time I saw that buck on the 9th afternoon. So yeah, that buck was coming in, and it was at 15 yards, and it was walking down a trail, and I had my pin right on it, and I just squeezed the trigger. I mean, that's really it.
Yeah.
I was just like, kill mode took over, and I was like, well, I just did that. I didn't grunt.
Yeah. Did you put any lead on him at all or anything?
No, and I actually hit him like liver.
Yeah.
So looking back at it, I regret the decision 100%. Like, I wish I stopped it, and I think he would have stopped. But you know,
I did the same thing. Yeah, I did the same thing. Self-filming in 2015, and had a big deer on our place that was 7.5-year-old 10-point with a little bit of junk, and he came in, same thing, 15 yards, man, and just like almost full broadside, but just so slightly quartered too. And he was walking, and I was just like, man, it's just too easy. And I basically put it on his shoulder, and I hit maybe 4 inches back of where I really wanted to, but it was still double on me. He died 50 yards, ran 50 yards and died. You know, it's one of those things where I just kind of wanted to see how much you thought you might have had to have put a lead on it to hit where you wanted to.
Yeah, I mean, I really should have been aiming like right at the crease of the shoulder, but I was just aiming center lungs, and it ended up hitting liver. You know, so
yeah. Well,
if I could redo it, I definitely would have grunted him, but
yeah,
you know,
cool.
Is what it is.
Yeah. No, it's a great film. Go watch it if you're listening. And what are you most excited about coming up this fall?
So I'll be doing just hunting in Michigan, and then I'll do my Nebraska, Wyoming with Travis again, which will be great. I actually know what at least know what I'm doing this time.
Buck in the truck was awesome. That was cool.
Buck in the truck, dude. Oh my gosh. I just had the craziest fall I feel like I'll ever have.
Yeah.
Like, I don't even know if I'll be able to top this, but literally we drove all night for Michigan, showed up in Nebraska like 2:00. 2 hours later, we had a buck dead. Like, it was just incredible. And right next to the Chevy. Oh, it's such a crazy story.
Yeah.
I don't even know.
Didn't y'all get stuck like midnight in Iowa and have to go knock on a farmer's door or something?
So, oh my gosh, there's so much.
I bet he was so mad at y'all.
On the way to Nebraska, I had a brilliant idea of stopping and checking the trail cameras in Iowa, because it was like a half hour or an hour out of the way, I think. Only added to the trip. Totally worth it, you know.
Sure.
So, GPS, stupid iPhone GPS was like, turn right. So we're like, okay. Just sent it, right down this old back road, and it just rained. And for anyone in the Midwest knows that B roads are, enter at your own risk roads, and just rain, freaking muddier than mud. And we didn't make it 10 feet, and we were like looking at each other thinking like, we can't turn around, we can't do anything. The only thing we can do is pray that we'll make it to the end of this road, because it was only like a mile long. And we made it like 300 yards, and we barely got off the crown of the road.
Yep.
And it just sucked us in right to the edge.
Yep.
So it's literally 11:30 at night, and we don't see one light anywhere because it's in the middle of nowhere, Iowa. And first thing I said was like, okay, well, we can either like sit here and cry, or I'm not kidding. This is literally where we had 5 days, and we had literally like, I invested, my own money in tags and everything, and we only had 5 days to go to 2 states and fill 5 tags. Like, we can't be dealing with this right now.
Yeah.
So I was like, we have to go walk somewhere. Like, we have no other option. And so we literally barely said any words to each other. We just laced our boots up and we started walking. We had to walk I think it was close to 2 miles for the first house. And it was some farmer's house and the dog's barking. And I'm the more outgoing one, I guess you could say. And Travis is 30 something and I'm only 20. So I'm knocking on this farmer's door and he walks out with his overalls unbuckled and you could tell he just woke up or whatever. And we literally talked to this guy for 15 minutes trying to convince him to come help us pull us out with a tractor. And we're we literally have no other option. We're going to come bang on your door again in the morning because we have no other option. So he was well, I got a couple tractors, I guess that would work. And we're looking around and this is an Iowa farmer. He has 6 tractors, you have one of those will work, And so he ended up being super cool. We jumped on the tractor with him. He pulled us out like it was nothing. And that was it. And now it's 1 a.m. We ran around in the woods at 1 a.m. until 3 a.m, pulled all the cards, and we kept driving to Nebraska.
There you go.
We were literally on a mission, and it was, a story that for sure I'll be able to tell forever.
Heck yeah, dude. That's one of those and I don't ever like to distinguish between the real hunters and the posers or whatever, but that you're living right when you're willing to take a detour in the middle of the night to go check some SD cards. That's the good stuff, man.
Yeah.
Heck yeah.
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 Oh gosh, yeah, that was great. But when we went back to Iowa, or actually when we were stuck in Iowa and we were talking to the farmer after he pulled us out and everything, we asked him if we owed him any money, because we were
please say no.
I was ready to fork up. Well, I was ready to fork up whatever it was, because I was so thankful. But he's just $10. I'm are you kidding me? $10.
It's either
I just woke you up at 11:30 at night. And I'm let's give you something else. He's no, it's really fine. And so I'm have you ever had antelope? He's he looked at me kind of weird, and I'm we're literally headed to Nebraska and Wyoming to go hunt. We're going to shoot an antelope. And he's no, I haven't. So I was I'm going to bring you back some antelope. So when we went back to Iowa, we brought him just a giant, half cooler of antelope and mule deer and everything. So that was pretty cool that we were able to do that.
Oh yeah, that's awesome, man. That's cool. That was a really cool video. I know Casey was intrigued by the enclosed car wash. We don't have those in Texas. They're just
the power washer.
Well,
y'all do it yourself.
You have roll down doors, I suppose, because it's so cold that you'll just make a snow machine probably whenever you go to spraying the thing. But we don't have that in Texas. It's not a thing.
Yeah, no joke.
Yeah. Well, cool, man. Yeah. So how does the listener go and learn more about what Chris B is doing?
Yeah, so I'm on YouTube. Just search Chris B, last name B-E-E, just like the bumblebee. I have to do that every single time. YouTube that. I have a bunch of stuff. I do vlogs about my tournament archery, and then I have this B season series that I'm falling in love with, really. So, yeah, and then I'm on Instagram, Chris B Archery, and then in a separate account, the B season. So,
man, awesome. We'll link to all that below in the notes. So if you're listening, make sure and check that out. And Chris, man, we appreciate your time. I know you're a busy guy these days, so keep us involved and let us know what you've been killing lately. I know you're doing the turkey thing pretty soon, aren't you?
Yeah, headed up to Virginia on Thursday. Hopefully you can get it done.
Cool.
So,
well, good luck, man. I appreciate your time.
Yeah, thanks, guys. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah, for sure.
Great talking to you guys.
Yep.
Yeah, you too, dude. See ya.
All right, see you later, guys.
All right, bye. Man, it's always good to have a young guy on that knows what he's talking about,
I know it, at least for once, because it ain't us.
No kidding, man. I don't know. I like talking to the guys that are our age because we can bro it up, but at the same time, sometimes, guys that are our age don't have as many experiences as the old dudes,
Yeah, I think there's a certain formula to, experience and knowledge and intelligence, and whenever you add them all up, you get something great. And if you just don't have enough time to get the experiences or enough money away from work to get the experiences, if you can
do things like what we just did, where you talk to a guy who knows this stuff. I mean, that's how you elevate yourself whenever maybe you can't be out there shooting all the time or be in the field all the time.
See, I was thinking about that the other day. I was like, man, I have, just since we started doing this, I have learned so much. Like, I mean, especially like in the world of whitetails, you know, just like since I've started doing this, I have learned so many things from these people that have put me in good positions to kill deer. And I haven't always killed in those positions, but I've come close several times on some pretty hard public land deer, you know, and we've closed the deal even, and man, it's been a great ride so far. So
yeah, it's like you say all the time. We do this selfishly. We just happen to publish it for other people.
yeah, kind of like Chris B. We enjoy sharing our experiences. So
yeah.
Anyway, I appreciate you guys listening, and God bless you guys. And remember, this is your element.
Live in it.
I wish the best for you. Well, I wish the best.
Hey everybody, listen up. I got mega huge news. Meat Eater Live is heading back out on the road. That's right. Join me and the crew. Clay Newcomb, Cal, Yanni, Spencer's going to be there. Phil the engineer's going to be there. Meat Eater Live, headed back out. Now, when you get every ticket, okay, every ticket you buy, you get a signed copy of our new Meat Eater Outdoor Cookbook. This tour is celebrating the release of the book. Buy a ticket, get a signed copy, Meat Eater Outdoor Cookbook, wild game recipes for the grill, smoker, camp stove, and campfire, which I'll point out is a $38 value. Here's where we're going to go. April 23rd, the Mesa Art Center in Mesa, Arizona. April 24, the Balboa Theater in San Diego. April 25, the Grove in Anaheim, California. April 27, the Crest Theater in Sacramento. April 29, the Union in Salt Lake City. April 30, the Egyptian in Boise. May 1, the Wilma Theater in Missoula. May 2, the Bing Crosby Theater in Spokane, Washington. May 4, Revolution Hall in Portland, Oregon. And May 5, the last day of the tour, Pantages Theater in Tacoma, Washington. For tickets and more information, visit the events page at themeateater.com. Hope to see you at the show.